Orion is too boring to even cheat on. My wife's words hit the dinner table like a sledgehammer through glass. The corporate retreat's main dining room went quiet for exactly 3 seconds before nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Keena smiled that razor-sharp smile she'd perfected during her climb up the PR ladder, the one that could slice through a man's confidence like paper. I sat there, a fork halfway to my mouth, watching her bask in the attention. 23 faces turned toward me, waiting for my reaction. The executives from Morrison Associates, their spouses, all of them hungry for drama to spice up their overpriced salmon dinners. "Well," I said, setting down my fork with deliberate calm, "that explains why you've been working so many late nights lately." Another ripple of laughter, this one more genuine. Keena's smile flickered for just a moment. Score 1 for the boring husband. "My name is Orion Vanton, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had a pretty good life. I'm 38, own a small but profitable construction consulting business, and married to one of the most ambitious women in Portland's corporate scene. We'd been together for 8 years, married for 5. Our house in the suburbs was modest but comfortable, our finances stable, our future seemingly secure. The problem was, somewhere along the way, Keena had decided I wasn't enough anymore. It started small. The way she'd roll her eyes when I talked about work, the gradual shift from we to I in her conversations, the nights she'd come home smelling like expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine, but tonight, at this company dinner, she'd finally said it out loud. Helena Trenwall, Keena's boss and the queen bee of Morrison Associates, leaned forward with predatory interest. At 43, Helena had built her reputation on destroying careers and climbing over the wreckage. Her perfectly styled blonde hair and designer dress screamed power and money. "Oh, Keena," Helena purred. "I'm sure Orion has his hidden depths." The way she said it made it clear she thought those depths were about as shallow as a puddle. More laughter from the table. I felt the familiar burn of being underestimated, the same feeling that had driven me to build my business from nothing. "Actually," I said, meeting Helena's gaze directly, "I've always believed actions speak louder than words. Don't you agree?" Something in my tone made her pause. Helena had survived in corporate warfare by reading people, and right now she was trying to read me. What she saw made her lean back slightly. The conversation moved on, but I caught Keena texting under the table, quick, furtive messages that she thought I couldn't see. When she excused herself to the restroom, she left her phone face down on the table. I'd been married to her long enough to know her patterns, the way she'd started keeping her phone locked, the new clothes, the gym membership she never used, the sudden interest in working weekends, all the classic signs I'd been too trusting to acknowledge. But tonight had changed everything. Tonight, she'd humiliated me in front of her colleagues, drawn a line in the sand. If Keena wanted to play games, I was about to show her exactly how creative a boring husband could be. When she returned from the restroom, I was already planning my first move. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The ride home was silent except for the rain drumming against the windshield. Keena stared out the passenger window, probably thinking about her next witty insult to share with her coworkers. I focused on driving, letting my mind work through the possibilities. Our house sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, surrounded by mature oak trees that provided privacy from the neighbors. I'd chosen this place specifically because I valued discretion. Tonight, that was going to work in my favor. "You were embarrassing tonight," Keena said as we pulled into the garage. "Was I?" I turned off the engine and looked at her. I thought I was just being myself. You know, boring old Orion. She had the grace to look slightly ashamed. "I didn't mean it like that." "Sure you did." I got out of the car and headed for the house. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Inside, Keena went straight to the bedroom while I poured myself a scotch and sat down at my laptop. Time to do some research. Helena Trenwall had built her career on information warfare, but she'd made one crucial mistake tonight. She'd underestimated the boring guy in construction. 20 minutes of searching through Morrison Associates' client database, Keena had helpfully saved her login credentials on our shared computer, gave me everything I needed. Helena's upcoming projects, her client relationships, her carefully maintained professional image. My phone buzzed with a text from Brent, my best friend and former army buddy who now ran a cybersecurity firm. "Saw the company dinner photos on social media. Your wife looks cozy with that guy Jace. Want me to dig deeper?" I stared at the message for a long moment. Jace Rowan, Keena's younger coworker with the flashy car and designer suits. I'd met him at a few company events, watched him work his charm on every woman in the room. including my wife. Do it, I texted back. Within an hour, Brent had sent me a comprehensive file. Jace's financial records, his social media activity, his dating history, and buried in the data, confirmation of what I'd suspected for months. Hotel receipts, restaurant charges, even a lease agreement for a downtown apartment that neither Kina nor Jace could afford alone. I sat back in my chair, scotch burning in my throat, and felt something cold and calculating settle in my chest. For months, I'd been the oblivious husband, the boring guy who worked too much and didn't pay enough attention. But that was about to change. Kina thought I was too boring to cheat on. She was about to learn exactly how wrong she was. I opened a new browser window and began typing. By morning, Helena Trenwall was going to receive some very interesting information about her star employee's extracurricular activities, and that was just the beginning. The house was quiet except for the sound of rain against the windows and my fingers on the keyboard. Somewhere upstairs, my wife was probably texting her lover, planning their next rendezvous. She had no idea that her boring husband was about to turn her perfectly ordered world into chaos. I smiled for the first time all evening and kept typing. The next morning arrived gray and drizzling, typical Portland weather that matched my mood perfectly. Kina was already gone when I woke up, another early meeting that probably involved breakfast with Jace at some trendy downtown cafe. I made coffee and checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Helena Trenwall's office, all time-stamped before 7 a.m. My anonymous email had found its target. The message I'd sent was simple and devastating, a compilation of Kina's expense reports cross-referenced with hotel charges that didn't match any client meetings, along with a few choice screenshots from Jace's social media showing expensive dinners and weekend trips that somehow aligned perfectly with Kina's business travel. I'd signed it "A Concerned Colleague" and sent it from a burner email account that would disappear in 24 hours. My phone rang. Brent. "You've been busy," he said without preamble. "Helena Trenwall just called an emergency HR meeting. Word is spreading fast through the Morrison building." "Interesting timing," I replied, sipping my coffee. "Think it has anything to do with employee accountability?" "I think your wife is about to have a very bad day. You sure about this path, Orion? Once you start this kind of war, there's no going back." I thought about Kina's words from last night, the laughter of her colleagues, the months of lies and deception. "I'm sure." "Then let's make it count. I've got more intel on Loverboy. Turns out Jace has been skimming client entertainment budgets to fund his lifestyle. Helena's going to love that detail." By 9 a.m., I was in my truck heading downtown. I had 3 client meetings scheduled, but first, I needed to make a stop at the Morrison Associates building. Time to see how my handiwork was playing out. The 40-story glass tower dominated the downtown skyline, all sharp angles and corporate ambition. I parked across the street and waited. At 9:47 a.m., Jace Rowan emerged from the building's main entrance, his face pale and his usual swagger replaced by nervous energy. He was on his phone, gesturing frantically. Even from across the street, I could see the panic in his movements. Whatever Helena had said in that meeting, it hadn't gone well for Morrison Associates' golden boy. My phone buzzed with a text from Kina. "Need to talk? Can you meet for lunch?" I smiled and typed back, "Busy day, rain check?" 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared. Then appeared again. She was struggling with how to respond, probably wondering if I knew something. The beautiful thing about being underestimated is that people never see you coming. My first client meeting was with Rebecca Santos, who ran a boutique architecture firm downtown. We were discussing a renovation project for a historic building, but I found myself distracted by the view from her conference room window. From here, I could see directly into several floors of the Morrison building. "Orion?" Rebecca was looking at me with concern. "You seem preoccupied today." "Sorry, personal matters bleeding into work time. You were saying about the structural modifications?" We finished the meeting in 30 minutes instead of the planned hour. I had more important things to do than discuss load-bearing walls. I had a marriage to demolish. Back in my truck, I called the concierge at the Heathman Hotel, one of Portland's most exclusive establishments. The same hotel where Kina and Jace had been conducting their affair according to Brent's research. "This is Orion Vanton," I said in my most professional voice. "I need to book your penthouse suite for this evening. Business entertainment for Morrison and Associates." "Certainly, sir." "Will this be charged to the company account?" "Yes." Helena Trenwall authorized the expense. I gave them Kina's corporate credit card information, another detail she'd carelessly left accessible on our home computer. The reservation was confirmed for 7 p.m. Now came the interesting part. I drove to Kina's gym, an upscale fitness center where she claimed to spend her lunch hours. The parking lot was nearly empty, which wasn't surprising since Kina hadn't actually worked out there in months. But her friend Sasha Kincaid would be there. Sasha, who'd been Kina's confidant and enabler throughout this whole affair. I found Sasha on the elliptical machine, her blonde hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail, her workout clothes more suited for a photo shoot than actual exercise. She saw me approaching, and her face shifted into a mask of fake concern. Orion, what a surprise. Is everything okay? That depends, I said, leaning against the machine next to hers. How much do you know about Kina's extracurricular activities? Sasha's rhythm faltered for just a moment. I'm not sure what you mean. I think you are. The question is whether you want to be collateral damage when this whole thing explodes, or if you'd prefer to be on the winning side. I pulled out my phone and showed her one of Jace's Instagram photos. Him and Kina at a wine bar last weekend, her hand on his arm, both of them looking very much like a couple. Sasha's face went white. I didn't know it was serious. It's about to get very serious. Helena Trenwall is conducting a full investigation into employee conduct, expense fraud, misuse of company resources, violation of workplace policies. Anyone who knew about this and didn't report it could be considered complicit. That was a complete fabrication, but Sasha didn't know that. She stopped the elliptical and grabbed her towel, her hands shaking slightly. What do you want from me? Information and cooperation. Kina thinks she's been clever, but she's left a trail of evidence that's about to bury her. You can help minimize the damage, or you can go down with her. Your choice. Sasha looked around the empty gym, probably weighing her options. Her friendship with Kina versus her own self-preservation. It wasn't much of a contest. She's meeting him tonight, she said quietly. The apartment downtown. She thinks you don't know about it. What else? Helena's been suspicious for weeks. Kina's been sloppy, coming in late, leaving early. And Jace, he's been bragging about having an inside track to company information through Kina. Perfect. I had everything I needed. Here's what's going to happen, I told Sasha. You're going to text Kina right now and suggest she meet you at the Heathman Hotel bar tonight at 8 p.m. Tell her you have important news about Helena's investigation. But that's your choice. Send the text or explain to Helena tomorrow why you've been covering for an employee who's been stealing from the company. Sasha sent the text. By 6 p.m., all the pieces were in motion. Helena Trenwall had received an anonymous tip about employee misconduct and was conducting her own investigation. Jace Rowan was panicking about his suddenly precarious position at the company. Kina was about to walk into a trap of her own making, and I was sitting in the Heathman Hotel bar, nursing a whiskey and waiting for the show to begin. The penthouse suite was booked under Helena's name, using Kina's corporate card. When the charges showed up, it would look like Helena was entertaining clients while Kina was misusing company resources. The perfect setup for a confrontation that would destroy both their professional relationship and Kina's carefully constructed lies. At 7:45 p.m., Helena Trenwall walked into the bar. She looked around with the predatory focus of a shark sensing wounded prey, her gaze settling on me with recognition. Mr. Vanton, what an unexpected pleasure. Miss Trenwall, I was hoping we might have a chance to chat. She sat down across from me, ordering a martini with the confidence of someone accustomed to power. About what, exactly? Professional accountability, employee conduct, the importance of maintaining corporate standards. Her eyes narrowed. You sent that email this morning. I sent several emails this morning. You'll have to be more specific. Before she could respond, Kina walked into the bar. She saw me first, then Helena, and her face cycled through confusion, suspicion, and dawning horror in the span of 3 seconds. Orion? Helena? What's going on here? I stood up and smiled at my wife. Just having a drink with your boss. She's been telling me about some interesting developments at Morrison Associates. The trap was set. Now it was time to watch it spring shut. Kina stood frozen in the hotel bar entrance, her designer handbag clutched like a shield against her chest. The confusion in her eyes was rapidly shifting to panic as she processed the scene. Her husband and her boss, sitting together like old friends, both watching her with expressions that promised nothing good. Sit down, Kina, Helena said, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. We need to discuss your recent performance metrics. My wife approached the table like she was walking to her own execution. She chose the chair farthest from both of us, her movements careful and controlled. Always the PR professional, even when her world was crumbling. I don't understand what's happening here, Kina said, though her tone suggested she understood perfectly. Helena sipped her martini and pulled out her phone. I received some interesting information this morning about expense irregularities, hotel charges that don't correspond to client meetings, Restaurant bills for two when you were supposedly working alone. Travel expenses that seemed to align remarkably well with your colleague Mr. Rowan's personal calendar. The color drained from Keena's face. Helena, I can explain. I'm sure you can. But first, let me share something even more interesting. Helena scrolled through her phone and found what she was looking for. A penthouse suite reservation made this afternoon using your corporate card. Authorized by me, apparently, though I have no memory of approving such an expense. Keena's gaze snapped to me. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked truly afraid. You see, I said conversationally, Helena and I have been having a fascinating discussion about corporate accountability. She's very interested in maintaining the integrity of her organization. Orion, what have you done? Me? I'm just a boring construction consultant. What could I possibly do? Helena leaned forward, her predatory smile sharp enough to cut glass. What your husband has done is expose a pattern of misconduct that threatens the reputation of my company. The question now is how we handle the cleanup. My phone buzzed with a text from Brent. Jace just left his apartment. Heading toward downtown. ETA 15 minutes. Perfect timing. Actually, I said, standing up, I think this conversation would be more productive in private. Helena, shall we continue this upstairs? I believe you have a suite reserved. Helena's smile widened. She understood the game now, and she was enjoying it. Excellent idea. Keena, you'll wait here. Don't even think about leaving. As we walked toward the elevators, I could feel Keena's stare burning into my back. Let her sit there and contemplate her choices. Let her wonder exactly how much I knew and what I planned to do with that information. The penthouse suite was everything you'd expect from Portland's most exclusive hotel. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, marble surfaces, furniture that cost more than most people's cars. Helena walked to the bar and poured herself another martini. I have to admit, she said, I'm impressed. Most betrayed husbands just hire lawyers or private investigators. You've orchestrated something much more elegant. Keena always said I lacked imagination. I wanted to prove her wrong. Consider it proven. Now what exactly do you want from me? I joined her at the window, looking down at the city lights. Justice, consequences, an end to the lies. And in exchange? Your employee misconduct problem disappears quietly. No lawsuits, no public scandals, no damage to Morrison Associates' reputation, just a clean resolution that serves everyone's interests. Helena studied me with new respect. You're not nearly as boring as your wife suggested. People see what they expect to see. Keena expected a passive husband who'd tolerate anything to avoid confrontation. She was wrong. My phone buzzed again. Brent. Jace in the lobby. Looks nervous. Should I send him up? I texted back, give us 5 minutes, then point him toward the bar. Your friend Mr. Rowan will be joining us shortly, I told Helena. I thought you might want to address his performance issues as well. How thoughtful. I do hate leaving loose ends. We returned to the bar just as Jace Rowan was approaching Keena's table. He looked like a man walking through a minefield, his usual confidence replaced by barely contained panic. When he saw Helena and me approaching together, he actually took a step backward. Ms. Trenwall, he stammered. I wasn't expecting to see you here. I'm sure you weren't. Sit down, Jace. We have several matters to discuss. The next 30 minutes were a masterclass in corporate destruction. Helena dissected Jace's expense reports with surgical precision, exposing pattern after pattern of fraud and misconduct. She detailed his misuse of company resources, his violation of workplace policies, his theft of client entertainment funds. Keena tried to defend him, tried to deflect blame, but every word she spoke only dug their grave deeper. Helena had decades of experience destroying careers, and she wielded that experience like a scalpel. The way I see it, Helena concluded, you have two choices. Resign immediately with a neutral reference, or face termination for cause along with potential criminal charges for embezzlement. Jace looked like he might be sick. Helena, please. I can pay back the money. You can clean out your desk tomorrow morning. Security will escort you from the building. She turned to Keena with the same cold efficiency. As for you, your resignation will be effective immediately. Your corporate card is canceled, your access to company systems is revoked, and your final paycheck will be reduced by the amount of fraudulent expenses we've identified. You can't do this, Keena said, but her voice lacked conviction. I can, and I am. The alternative is a very public investigation that will destroy what's left of your professional reputation. Choose wisely. Jace stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. This is insane. You're ruining our careers over what? Some jealous husband's revenge fantasy? Helena's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. Your careers were ruined the moment you decided to steal from my company. Mr. Vanton simply provided the evidence. This isn't over, Jace said, pointing at me. You think you're clever, but you have no idea what you've started. I stood up slowly, letting him see the full effect of 8 years of construction work and weekend boxing sessions. Jace was tall, but soft, all designer suits and gym memberships he never used. I was shorter, but built like someone who'd spent his life working with his hands. Actually, I said quietly, I know exactly what I've started. The question is whether you're smart enough to know when it's finished. Jace opened his mouth to respond, then seemed to think better of it. He turned and walked away, his expensive shoes clicking against the marble floor like a countdown timer. Kina remained seated, staring at the table. When she finally looked up at me, her eyes were filled with something I'd never seen before. Genuine fear. What happens now? She asked. Now you go home and pack your things. The divorce papers will be filed tomorrow morning. You have 48 hours to remove your belongings from the house. Orion, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can't do anything. You made your choice months ago. Tonight, you're living with the consequences. Helena finished her martini and stood up. Gentlemen, ladies, this has been illuminating. Kina, I'll expect your resignation letter by email within the hour. She walked away without looking back, leaving Kina and me alone at the table. The silence stretched between us like a chasm, filled with 8 years of shared history that now felt like ancient archaeology. I never meant for it to go this far, Kina said finally. Yes, you did. You just never thought you'd get caught. So what now? You destroy my life and feel satisfied? Is that really who you want to be? I looked at my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. You called me boring, too boring to even cheat on. You humiliated me in front of your colleagues and thought I'd just take it quietly. I was wrong. I'm sorry. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. I left her sitting there in the hotel bar, surrounded by the wreckage of her carefully constructed lies. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities for revenge. But tonight, I'd proven that the boring husband was capable of extraordinary things. The game was far from over. 3 days after the hotel confrontation, I was discovering that revenge was a dish best served with multiple courses. Kina had moved out of our house, taking only her clothes and personal items, leaving behind 8 years of shared possessions that now felt like evidence of a crime. She was staying with Sasha, who had quickly distanced herself from the wreckage at Morrison Associates. Jace had disappeared entirely, probably looking for work in another city where his reputation hadn't preceded him. Helena had made it clear that anyone who hired him would be making an enemy of one of Portland's most influential PR executives. But I wasn't finished, not even close. I was sitting in my home office, reviewing construction plans for a new client, when Brent called with interesting news. Your friend Sasha has been busy, he said without preamble. Turns out she's been playing a longer game than anyone realized. What do you mean? Remember that cybersecurity audit I did for Morrison Associates last year? I still have monitoring access to their systems. Sasha's been in contact with Helena, feeding her information about Kina's activities for weeks before your hotel ambush. I set down my coffee cup carefully. She was working both sides. Gets better. I traced her communications back 6 months. She's the one who introduced Kina to Jace at that company mixer. She's the one who suggested they use that downtown apartment. She orchestrated the whole affair. The pieces clicked into place with disturbing clarity. Sasha's concerned friendship, her helpful suggestions, her convenient availability whenever Kina needed someone to confide in. She'd been manipulating the situation from the beginning. Why? I asked, though I was already beginning to suspect the answer. Dig deeper into her background. 3 years ago, before Kina transferred to Morrison Associates, Sasha applied for the same position and didn't get it. She's been carrying a grudge ever since. And now she's using me to destroy Kina's life while positioning herself as the loyal friend who tried to help. Exactly. She's probably planning to comfort you through the divorce proceedings, play the supportive friend who always knew Kina wasn't good enough for you. I hung up and stared out the window at the Portland skyline. I'd thought I was orchestrating this revenge, but I'd been dancing to someone else's tune. The realization should have made me angry, but instead, I found myself impressed. Sasha had played a 3-year game with patience and precision that made my hotel ambush look like amateur hour. The question was what to do about it. My phone rang. Speak of the devil. Orion? Sasha's voice was soft, concerned, perfectly calibrated to sound supportive. I wanted to check on you. I know this whole situation with Kina must be devastating. I'm managing. How is she? Not well. She's been crying constantly, saying she made the biggest mistake of her life. I think she really wants to work things out with you. Another manipulation. Sasha was keeping Kina isolated and dependent while positioning herself as my ally. Classic psychological warfare. That's kind of you to call, I said. Actually, I was wondering if you might want to have coffee sometime. I could use a friend right now. The pause was so brief I almost missed it. I'd like that. When were you thinking? How about this afternoon? That new place downtown, near Pioneer Square? Perfect. See you at 3? After she hung up, I called Brent back. I need you to set up surveillance at Cafe Vita downtown, video and audio. I'm about to have a very interesting conversation with our mutual friend. You sure about this? She's been playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. Then it's time to flip the board. Cafe Vita was one of those trendy Portland coffee shops that catered to young professionals who needed to be seen drinking artisanal beverages. I arrived early and chose a table near the window, where Brent's surveillance equipment would have clear sight lines. Sasha arrived exactly on time, dressed in casual clothes that somehow managed to look expensive. She'd done something different with her hair, styled it softer, more approachable. Even her makeup was subtle, designed to suggest vulnerability rather than her usual polished perfection. Orion, she said, giving me a hug that lasted just a moment too long. You look tired. It's been a difficult week. Thank you for meeting me. She ordered a complicated latte while I stuck with black coffee. We made small talk about the weather, the neighborhood, anything except the elephant in the room. Sasha was patient, letting me set the pace, waiting for me to reveal my emotional state so she could calibrate her response. I keep wondering if I did the right thing, I said finally. Destroying Kina's career, ending our marriage so publicly. Maybe I should have just confronted her privately, tried to work things out. Sasha reached across the table and touched my hand. You did what any reasonable person would do. She betrayed you, humiliated you. You had every right to defend yourself. Did I? Or did I just prove that I'm exactly as petty and vindictive as she always said I was? Don't say that. You're a good man who was pushed too far. Kenna made her choices, and now she's living with the consequences. I let her comfort me for a few more minutes, playing the role of the conflicted husband seeking absolution. Sasha was good at this, offering just the right mix of sympathy and validation. She'd probably been practicing this conversation for weeks. Can I ask you something? I said. How long have you known about Kena and Jace? Another micropause. I suspected something was wrong for a while, but I didn't have proof until recently. When did you first suspect? Maybe 2 months ago. She started acting differently, making excuses for why she couldn't meet for our usual dinners. I thought she might be having problems at work. Interesting. According to Brent's research, Kena and Jace had been involved for at least 4 months. Sasha was minimizing her knowledge, trying to appear less complicit than she actually was. I feel terrible that I didn't say something sooner, she continued. Maybe if I'd warned you, you could have stopped it before it went so far. Or maybe it would have just driven them to be more careful. Maybe. I just hate seeing you hurt like this. I looked into her eyes and saw the calculation behind the concern. She was already positioning herself as my next relationship, probably had been planning it since before Kena's affair even began. The patient friend who would help me heal, who would show me what real loyalty looked like. Sasha, I said quietly, I need to tell you something. Of course, anything. I know what you did. The change in her expression was subtle but unmistakable. The concerned friend mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something much colder underneath. I'm not sure what you mean. I know you introduced Kena to Jace. I know you suggested the apartment, encouraged the affair, fed information to Helena. I know you've been playing all of us for months. Sasha sat back in her chair, her hand moving away from mine. When she spoke again, her voice had lost its soft, supportive tone. You can't prove any of that. Actually, I can. Digital communications leave trails, Sasha. My friend Brent is very good at following those trails. Even if that were true, what does it matter? Kena still cheated on you. Jace still stole from the company. I didn't make them do anything they didn't want to do. No, but you orchestrated it. You manipulated the situation to destroy Kena's life while positioning yourself as the innocent bystander. Very impressive, actually. Sasha studied me with new respect, the way Helena had in the hotel suite. What do you want? The truth. Why Kena? Why go to all this trouble for revenge? You really want to know? Her mask was completely gone now, replaced by something sharp and predatory. Because she had everything I wanted, the job, the husband, the perfect life, and she threw it all away because she was bored. So you decided to help her throw it away faster. I decided to give her enough rope to hang herself. The fact that you were smart enough to pull the lever just made it more satisfying. I leaned forward, matching her intensity. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear from my life completely. No more concerned phone calls, no more offers of support, no more manipulation. If I see you again, if you contact me again, I'll make sure everyone in Portland knows exactly what kind of person you really are. And if I don't agree? Then you'll discover that I'm much better at this game than you thought. Ask Kina and Jace how that worked out for them. Sasha stood up, her movement sharp and angry. You think you're so clever, but you're just another boring man who can't handle the fact that his wife found someone better. Maybe, but I'm a boring man who destroyed 3 careers in 1 week. What does that make you? She walked away without answering, her expensive shoes clicking against the cafe floor like an angry metronome. I watched her go and felt a strange sense of completion. The puppet master had been exposed, the strings cut, the game finally over. Or so I thought. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You have no idea what you've started. This isn't finished. I looked up to see Sasha standing outside the cafe window, her phone in her hand, her expression promising retaliation. She'd been playing a long game for 3 years, and I just destroyed it in 30 minutes. This was far from over. The Portland Rose Festival was in full swing, transforming the waterfront into a carnival of food trucks, live music, and enough people to populate a small city. I hadn't planned to attend, but sometimes the universe provides the perfect stage for a final act. It had been 2 weeks since my confrontation with Sasha at the cafe. 2 weeks of silence that felt more ominous than peaceful. Kena had moved out of Sasha's place and into a studio apartment across town, apparently having discovered her friend's true nature. Jace had found work with a small marketing firm in Seattle, his tail firmly between his legs. Helena had promoted someone else to fill the power vacuum at Morrison Associates. I should have felt satisfied. Mission accomplished, revenge served, justice done. But Sasha's parting threat kept echoing in my mind. She wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. The answer came in the form of a phone call from Brent on Friday afternoon. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Sasha's been busy. She's filed complaints with the state licensing board about your business practices, allegations of bid manipulation, safety violations, client fraud, all fabricated but detailed enough to trigger an investigation. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. How long before this becomes public? She's also been spreading rumors through social media, anonymous posts suggesting you're unstable, possibly dangerous. She's creating a narrative where you're the villain and everyone else is your victim. Clever. Destroy my professional reputation while painting herself as the concerned citizen trying to protect the community. It gets worse. She's reached out to Kena, convinced her to file a restraining order, claims you've been stalking and threatening her since the divorce proceedings began. I set down my coffee cup and stared out the window at the festival crowds. Families with children, couples holding hands, people enjoying a perfect Portland summer day. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that a few blocks away, someone was trying to destroy mine. How long do I have? The restraining order hearing is Monday morning. The licensing board investigation could take months, but the damage to your reputation starts immediately. Then we end this tonight. Orion, whatever you're thinking. I'm thinking Sasha wants to play the victim. Let's give her an audience. The Rose Festival's main stage was set up in Tom McCall Waterfront Park, with a sound system powerful enough to reach the thousands of people spread across the grass. Tonight's entertainment was a local band followed by a community awards ceremony, the kind of wholesome civic event that Sasha would never miss. She'd be there, probably working the crowd, building support for her victim narrative. I spent the afternoon preparing, phone calls to old clients, gathering testimonials about my work quality and character, screenshots of Sasha's social media activity, showing the pattern of manipulation that went back years. Bank records proving that every expense in my business was legitimate and properly documented. But most importantly, I had Brent's surveillance footage from our cafe meeting, where Sasha had admitted to orchestrating Kena's affair. Clear audio and video of her confessing to months of manipulation and psychological warfare. At 7 p.m., I walked into the festival crowd wearing my best suit and carrying a laptop bag. I looked like any other professional attending a community event, not a man about to commit social warfare. I found Sasha near the main stage, surrounded by a small group of people who were listening intently to her concerned warnings about dangerous men and the importance of supporting abuse victims. She'd positioned herself perfectly, the caring friend trying to protect other women from making Kena's mistakes. She saw me approaching, and her face shifted into an expression of fear that would have been convincing if I hadn't known better. Several people in her group turned to look at me with suspicion and hostility. "Orion," she said loudly enough for nearby people to hear, "I asked you not to contact me." "I'm not here to contact you, Sasha. I'm here to set the record straight." Before she could respond, I walked past her group toward the stage. The band had just finished their set, and the community awards ceremony was about to begin. Perfect timing. I approached the event coordinator, a harried-looking woman with a clipboard and a headset. "Excuse me, I'm Orion Vanton from Vanton Construction. I have some important community safety information to share. Would it be possible to make a brief announcement?" "I'm sorry, sir, but we have a scheduled program." I handed her my business card and put on my most professional smile. "It concerns fraudulent complaints being filed against local businesses and the importance of verifying information before making accusations. Very relevant to community welfare." She looked uncertain, but nodded. "You have 2 minutes." I walked up the steps to the stage and took the microphone. The crowd below was a sea of faces, hundreds of people enjoying their Friday evening. In the front section, I could see Sasha pushing through the crowd, probably planning to stop me somehow. "Good evening, everyone. My name is Orion Vanton, and I'm a local business owner. I'm here tonight because someone has been spreading false information about me and my company, and I think the community deserves to know the truth." The crowd was paying attention now, drawn by the promise of drama. I opened my laptop and connected it to the festival's projection system. Suddenly, Sasha's face appeared on the large screens flanking the stage, frozen in mid-sentence from our cafe conversation. 2 weeks ago, I discovered that my wife was having an affair. That's not unusual, unfortunately. What was unusual was learning that the affair had been orchestrated by someone I thought was a friend. I clicked play on the video. Sasha's voice filled the waterfront park through the powerful sound system. Because she had everything I wanted. The job, the husband, the perfect life, and she threw it all away because she was bored. A murmur went through the crowd. On screen, video Sasha continued. "I decided to give her enough rope to hang herself. The fact that you were smart enough to pull the lever just made it more satisfying." I could see real Sasha in the crowd, her face white with shock and rage. She was trying to push closer to the stage, but the crowd had grown thick around her, people pointing and whispering. "This is the woman who has been filing false complaints about my business," I continued. "The woman who has been spreading rumors about my character on social media. The woman who convinced my ex-wife to file a restraining order based on fabricated claims of harassment." I clicked to the next video, showing Sasha's admission about introducing Kana to Jace, about manipulating the affair from the beginning. Her voice echoed across the waterfront. "I didn't make them do anything they didn't want to do. I decided to give her enough rope to hang herself." The crowd was fully engaged now, their attention focused on the drama unfolding before them. Some were recording with their phones, others were sharing the spectacle on social media in real time. By tomorrow morning, everyone in Portland would know exactly what kind of person Sasha Kincaid really was. "I'm sharing this with you tonight because I believe in accountability," I said into the microphone. "When someone tries to destroy innocent people's lives through lies and manipulation, the community has a right to know. When someone files false complaints with government agencies, wasting taxpayer resources and damaging legitimate businesses, there should be consequences." I could see Sasha had given up trying to reach the stage. She was backing away from the crowd, her face a mask of humiliation and fury. Several people were pointing at her, recognizing her from the video. Her carefully constructed victim narrative was crumbling in real time. "I'm not asking you to take my word for anything," I continued. "I'm asking you to look at the evidence, verify the facts, and make your own judgments. Because in a community like ours, trust and honesty matter. And when someone violates that trust, they should face the consequences." I disconnected my laptop and handed the microphone back to the coordinator. The crowd was buzzing with conversation, phones were recording, and somewhere in the distance I could hear sirens approaching. Probably Sasha calling the police, claiming harassment or public disturbance. I walked down from the stage and through the crowd, accepting handshakes and supportive comments from people who recognized the injustice of false accusations. By the time the police arrived, I was just another festival attendee enjoying the evening entertainment. The next morning, the video had been shared thousands of times across social media. Local news stations picked up the story, framing it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of false accusations and social media manipulation. The state licensing board quietly dropped their investigation after reviewing the fabricated complaints. Kana withdrew her restraining order request without explanation. Sasha disappeared from Portland entirely, probably seeking a fresh start in a city where her reputation hadn't preceded her. I sat in my home office on Sunday morning, reading the news coverage and feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. Not the cold satisfaction of revenge, but the warm contentment of justice served and truth revealed. My phone rang. Helena Trenwall. "Mr. Vanton," she said, "I wanted to congratulate you on last night's performance. Very impressive use of public resources. Just setting the record straight." "Indeed. I also wanted to mention that Morrison Associates occasionally needs construction consulting services. We value working with professionals who understand the importance of accountability. I'll send you my rates." "Excellent. Oh, and Mr. Vanton, next time someone calls you boring, you might want to show them that video." I hung up and looked out the window at the Portland skyline. The city looked different now, cleaner somehow, as if a layer of deception had been stripped away to reveal the truth underneath. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Well played." I didn't recognize the sender, but I had a pretty good idea who it was. Somewhere in another city, Sasha was probably planning her next move, her next victim, her next long game of manipulation and revenge. But that was someone else's problem now. I'd learned to play chess while everyone else was playing checkers, and I'd won decisively. The boring husband had become something much more dangerous, a man who understood the power of truth, properly deployed. I deleted the text without responding and went back to reading my newspaper. Outside, Portland continued its normal rhythm, unaware that justice had been served and balance restored. The game was finally over.